It's the morning after the night before. Yeah, I want to take you back to last night and the final, the grand finale of the Chess.com Speed Chess Challenge between Magnus Carlsen and Hikaru Nakamura, these two great rivals in online chess. Nakamura, the holder of the Chess.com Speed Chess title. Magnus really wanted this one, and it all came down to this final game. Carlsen was leading by 1 point. If Nakamura could win this final game, then they'd have to go to a tiebreak. So it all hinged on this. After about 3.5 hours, the level of chess was extraordinary. I mean, I know what it's like when you play a long series of blitz games. After a bit, I mean, when I say after a bit, you know, an hour, your level just dips. But these two were, it was just remarkable. At the moment, I don't think there's a match for these two when it comes to blitz in the world, actually. At least, you know, in terms of consistency. So, Nakamura with black here. Could he produce a win? Now, this was the bullet phase. The bullet stage of the contest. So it's 1 minute each on the clock with 1 second increment. So it means if you get to a winning position, you don't just run out of time. You know, you can still make it. So it's not, yeah, there's no clear cutoff. So 1 minute with 1 second increment. That's very important. So I'm just going to take you through the first few moves. I mean, one could comment on some of these moves, but I want to get to the kind of critical phase of the game. I mean, you could say with white, I think Carlsen would have been pretty happy with this start. He's got a nice centre. He's got that knight beautifully placed on the outpost. Remember, Carlsen only needs a draw. Nakamura needs to somehow stir up this position and create some winning chances. And bishop h4 does look nice looking at this square. But Nakamura, this is where things start to happen. Nakamura throws this one in, and that's a little bit uncomfortable for white. You know, you've got to deal with this threat, but I don't know, these pieces look very nice. And Carlsen makes the obvious move here, which is knight f6. Bishop f6 would have been a better move, but knight f6 looks pretty good, you know, if you can grab that bishop here. But watch what happens. Nakamura exchanged on f3. Over to you. Watch the black play here. Okay, this one's pretty obvious. At least when you've got a little bit of time and you're sitting in your office here, then it's pretty obvious. Bishop takes pawn check, winning a pawn. If that's taken, then the queen picks up the bishop, black's a pawn up. So Carlsen decided to play king c1. So he's retaining that powerful bishop on f6 and its opposite colour bishops, which, well, if they get to an endgame, then good drawing chances. And it is anyway a very strong bishop on f6. So that bishop came back, but Nakamura's won a pawn. So he's on his way. Could he win this one? The queen pops out. Yep, that might well hassle white's king, but queen's d3. Carlsen, of course, very happy to exchange the queens. He only needs a draw. And if the queen comes down check, then the king just pops out on d2. No harm done. Queen h5. Where's that queen going? b3. Well, it's a pretty stable square. It's on a light square, and it's you know, looking at this pawn, so it's fine. King a8. Yeah, it's kind of a pass move. Remember, in bullet chess, you haven't got time to think up some grand plan. Sometimes you just got to pass and see what turns up. So now, queen b5. Queen switches back to the queen side, and that's really where it wants to be, because there are only 2 pawns in front of white's king, and Nakamura can hope to try and open up white's king position. Carlsen plays a good move, h5, distracting black's queen. I know one should never analyse blitz games, or particularly bullet games, but here's an interesting moment. Carlsen plays the obvious move, rook h1, to regain the pawn he's just given up. But in fact, there's a really nice move here, f5. And that queen gets driven all the way back. And so on. And actually, white is fine there. But Carlsen just went rook h1. It's normal. He's just exchanging pawns. And then, to my eyes, this looked a bit strange, putting the rook here. I would have thought just playing the rook to a1 to try and forestall this the queenside pawn advance. The point is this, that after rook g5, then the c-pawn blocks out that rook, and those rooks look completely offside. In the meantime, black's pawn's potentially steaming down the board. Maybe not the c-pawn at the moment, of course, because of that pin, but certainly the a-pawn. So this rook heads back. Instinctively, Carlsen puts it on a dark square and prevents that queen coming down here, maybe at some point. But, well, that's rook h1 might have been a better try. a4, yeah, it's dangerous. It's really dangerous. So white's king is getting opened. The rook switches to attacking the d-pawn. This rook's still looking way offside on g5. And now, a very direct move from Nakamura. Instead of bothering to defend that pawn, first of all, he exchanges on b3. He could defend that pawn, maybe with his queen, maybe the rook, but no, just king b7. Allows that pawn to be taken. He can see that this bishop is defending well. And he just wants to get that rook to the a file as quickly as possible. That's what it's all about. And who knows, there could be some attacking chances here, or maybe here, or maybe here. Let's see. So Carlsen plays f5. He's trying to open things up. He's destabilizing that bishop, basically. But watch what Nakamura does. Queen f1. Wow, and now it looked like Nakamura was in with a massive shout in this game. Carlsen couldn't see a defensive move, so he just took the bishop. And Nakamura blundered. He played rook a1. It threatens a mate in 1, which doesn't look bad, but he could have won with queen a1 check. I guess he was looking for something more convincing. But this, or maybe he just didn't see that this would lead to mate. Yeah, it's not easy. Of course, you can just take this rook. Basically, this is the point. The queen can interpose, but this must be winning. You can just take the queen. So let's go back. So queen a1 check was the move, but, well, I mean, these players, they don't have time to calculate. This is the point. You know, you just play a move that looks good. You simply can't think. It's all instinct here, which is why what happens next is pretty extraordinary. Carlsen played queen c2. Well, he saw that queen b1 mate was threatened. But he missed a massive shot here. He could have played rook takes pawn check. Now, if that's taken, then this will lead to mate. I mean, I think that's pretty clear. When you've got a queen and a rook and a bishop attacking a naked king, then it's going to happen. For example, here, you just keep checking basically until you get there. The bishop comes in. Okay, and so on. That's a nice checkmate. Okay, I suppose, you know, in this kind of situation, king a8 would keep the game going. Remember, it's bullet, and there's no clear checkmate after that. Now, Carlsen would have to find a queen move. Queen d2 is actually a good move. because the king escapes. You could also play queen c2. That's good enough, but that's not an immediate checkmate. So even after the winning move rook b6, in fact, white would still have to find some decent moves there. But Carlsen played queen c2, defending against the mate. Okay, over to you. Time for me to have a slurp of tea. Black to play. What would you do in this position? So remember, Nakamura in a must-win situation. He's a piece down. What are you going to do here? Cheers, folks. Nakamura played rook a8, threatening a big check here. But he missed a killer. Rook a2. Hang on, let's get it on the board. Rook a2 check. Simple idea. Here, next rook comes, and the a1 square is now clear for the queen, and that's that. So it's actually, I mean, geometrically, it's quite interesting. You know, you need to get the queen here, so you give that one up, and then the queen comes in. It's very, very neat, actually. And of course, if the king moves away, then, you know, you can just take that, and you're going to get there, basically. It's winning for black. But Nakamura played rook a8 instead. Now, what would Carlsen do? He's still got rook b6 check. That is still a winning move. But no, he played rook d7 check. And after king c6, well, it looked like Nakamura was safe again. And it looked like this rook is coming down and white's king was going to get mashed here. But here, when both players were down to their final few seconds, Carlsen found an extraordinary idea. He took on c5. That was taken, forced. And then rook c7 check. And in this way, white's queen enters the game. This is absolutely brilliant. You know, when your pieces are flying, you haven't got time to think, but somehow Carlsen found this idea. The queen has broken through to the king. The king is never going to escape the checks. The only question is it a perpetual or is it checkmate? Well, in fact, in this position, after queen d5 check, bishop e5, Magnus offered a draw which was accepted. Of course, white has a draw here. So, for example, well, first of all,
New Ensure Life Strength Pro Dual Action Formula. With Ensure, I found strength for life. Stay in your prime.
the king can't come to c8. That's checkmate. So the king has to come to a7. And then bishop d4 forces the king back here. And bishop e5 is just a draw. So why does the king have to go back? Well, if the king steps forward, then here, and there's one of my favorite checkmates actually, this crossfire. Very neat. But actually Carlsen can force this. So let's just go back. This is where Carlsen offered a draw, which was accepted. Let's see how Carlsen can actually force it. So here the king goes back. And now there's a couple of ways to do it, but let's go with queen d8. King steps up, queen d7. Now if the king steps back, then bishop e5 is mate. The king steps up, check, and once again we have this beautiful crossfire checkmate. I know this checkmating pattern very well from lots of those mating 2 problems that I really enjoy. Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful checkmate, that one. But Carlsen simply offered a draw. That's all he needed to win the match. He won the match by 1 point. They'd been playing for about 3.5 hours. And Magnus just got his nose in front right at the end. It was a fantastic contest. I really enjoyed spectating it. I don't know. I still have very mixed feelings about sort of online blitz chess. It's nothing like the game I grew up with. Even playing in blitz tournaments, over the board blitz tournaments when I was playing properly. It's nothing like that. It's all about pre-moving. You have increment.